Hey there, Moto buddies. Today we're going to do a little walkthrough of a KTM 690 EnduroR ABS. This is a 2014. This one's been recently upgraded with some features that we'll go through. KTM designed this bike in the 600 to 700 cc class. This is a competitor bike to like the Honda XR650 or the Kawasaki KLR bike. Smaller than the 1 liter bike, smaller than like the GS, BMW GS series bikes, some of the Triumph bikes. So this is a little bit smaller and more agile than some of those sport tours. Has a little lower max top end as far as speed. This is like a 90 to 100 mile an hour bike. Those are probably 110 to 120. But this only has a weight of 306 versus 400 plus, 450 plus for some of those bikes. And so this is a much more nimble version of a dual sport, a true proper dual sport bike, a little more street oriented, say, than the 500EXCF, which is a dual sport bike, but this one gives you a little more horsepower. This has 66 horsepower, 6 speed. It's a wet transmission with a slipper clutch, so that means if you over downshift versus engine speed, you won't lock up. Due to engine braking, you won't lock up the rear tire and skid out. So it has a slipper feature on the clutch, which by default makes this more of a street-oriented bike. However, very capable on the dirt. 10 inches of travel, has a lower seat height than the 500. This one, I think about 3.5 inches under like the 500. So it's a little more friendly, a little more user-friendly for maybe a smaller person. Get on and get off is a lot friendlier. So this particular one, let's go through it and talk about some of the features. Up here on the front, we just tricked it up a little bit with some stickers on the rims. Everything else is pretty much stock. That is a big floating, I think 13-inch front rotor. Lots of grab power on that brake system. Really impressive all around on this bike. Moving up here, we've put on our classic Canyon Dancer. It's our tie strap. We do those on a lot of bikes, as well as the Tugger. We put on the premium Tugger. This has a little padded, on the back side here, there's a little padded grab portion of that, and that's for just hand comfort as you put more pull on that. This is a heavier bike, so we opted to go with that. Up here on the bars, we do what we do in a lot of these bikes. We put on the very trick, very sturdy highway dirt bikes set of guards. As always, these thread into the bar, so we thread a couple inches into the aluminum, the handlebar itself. This bolt is the same threaded diameter as that, and that bolts and anchors right in there. And the sturdiest anchor system on the market. These are the best bar guards there are. Integrated mirrors, got a nice big hand shield here, and again up here, as they all do, they have this big beefy double bolt mount that goes into this top plate. This top plate secures to their triple clamp, and nobody else does anything quite as nice. Nobody else has anything as sturdy. And then over here we put on the Pro Grip 6, I think these are the 612s. I forget what the exact number of these grips are, but they have a nice generous rubber grip here, and you get a lot of isolation from any bar buzz. So those work really good. We put on ABS levers on here. Again, the C6 series like we do on a lot of bikes, so that gives you the adjustable thumb screw. These are a little bit nicer than the typical ASVs. You get the knurled thumb screw, which is pretty nice, and some of this CNC machining in here, which is pretty nice as well. We put on the GPR stabilizer. These require you to pull the top triple clamp off. So one of the things with the GPR, when you install these, there's a little more tricky to it than, say, like the Fastway, which has a split clamp. The GPR, you have to take off the top triple clamp here and then slide that over the neck, tighten that all down, and this has various anchor points. Really trick system. The GPR V4, we like those a lot. Stock bars, everything else up top is pretty well stock. Let's pull the seat and we'll talk about some of the stuff here under the engine, or under the seat rather. These bikes come with a paper air filter and a paper air box. Not a paper air box, but a box that covers that paper filter. We pull that off. This is, I'll put a link in the description, but this comes out of an outfit in England where they make a foam. This is a UNI foam filter on a metal cage, and that replaces the entire stock paper setup, and then we stretch out a PC Racing filter skin over the top of that, and that doubles the life of your air filter, pre-filter, and so that dramatically improves the air filtering ability of this bike over the stock. We put in right here, this is an ABS module, so KTM makes a module that allows you to default into ABS on or off mode. It also gives you a different fuel mapping setting if you're, say, like in a third world country and have some low octane fuel. That will compensate for that, so we put that on there. Everything else in there is pretty well stock. On this bike, as we move to the back, we've got these Moto Gadget, really slick turn signals. These are glass on a CNC machined aluminum base and bracket, and these mount under the fender and are incredibly bright and really trick. This is not the stock 690 rear fender here. We took that off and we put on the Sicass Racing version LED light, and it's got a license plate light that shines down on there, and lighter, better, slimmer than stock. We like those a lot. This is a seat concept seat. This is the tall version. We have a tall rider on this bike, so you get a little more beef here in the center section, but these are best seats out there. Nobody else has anything quite as nice as that. This bike got a exhaust upgrade. We took off the stainless steel slip-on. That weighed 10 pounds plus, maybe 15 pounds, and this akrapovic is about half that. Better sound, better flow. It was improvement in every possible way. We also took off the stainless steel boot guards here. There's a front and a back one, and we replaced them with the P3 Racing carbon fiber setup. Very slick. This bike, just to point something out, it has a throttle by wire, so there is no mechanical connection in between the grip and the throttle body here. This is all electronic, and that gets you the stability control and integrates into the ABS system. So pretty advanced drivability feature there. On this bike, we upgraded we've got the Rekluse slave cylinder on here. We put a Rekluse in this bike, and that gives us all the features and benefits of the Rekluse system. And that's coupled with the slipper clutch, and so this has got a really pretty slick setup as far as the driveline goes. We upgraded the rear tire. I think that front tire is the stock, but we upgraded the rear to a Moto Z. That's a arena hybrid, really meaty tire, lots of great traction. This is kind of a desert bike, and so that tire works well. Nothing else has been modified back there on the rear wheel other than a sticker set, just for a little bling. Everything else on this bike, I think, as far as this side, we've got radiator guards that we put on. So these are the KTM Hard Parts. This piece of bracket right here surrounds the radiator from the top and the bottom, and that gives you crash protection here on the radiator. The radiator is really exposed on this side, and it's pretty thin, and there's a lot of guys on the boards who talk about denting up their radiators, so we added that for durability there. We took off the plastic skid plate and put on this Ricochet version. This is a nice, really beefy one. I think the guys do a good job on those. Those come out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Support local manufacturers where we can. Over here on this side, we put on a Flatland Racing master cylinder, brake master cylinder guard right here. This protects the vulnerable rear master cylinder from being crushed in a rock situation, so that adds some beefy skid plating there. Something to point out on this bike, the gas tank is back here in the rear because the front has the ABS module and that large air filter. The gas tank is back here, so it carries the weight to the rear. That's pretty good for weight distribution. One of the things that a lot of the guys do to upgrade the gas tank in the back, this is your filler, and this on the stock bike is plastic, and these anchor screws warp that out. This cracks right here on the edges of the plastic, and it's pretty vulnerable right here for gas leaks. So we pull this off, and CJ Designs out of Wisconsin makes these. Very trick upgrade, and so that has been done on this bike. And we also put on back here this rear disc guard. This is from our buddy Chris in Colorado, MotoMinded. He makes this ABS cord protector, and that protects this vulnerable cord right here. If this isn't on there, you just have this arc loop of the ABS cord just hanging out there. Catch that on a branch or something and do some damage to that, so that protects it. And then our buddies at Flatland Racing make these Trick 690 disc guards, and you can't see it. It's up under here, but they engrave 690 into the aluminum there, and so that's kind of a nice feature. Rear wheel is stock. One of the things you might notice on some of our bike builds is we will zip tie or safety wire the spokes together, and that's so if you break a spoke while you're out riding, you will keep that spoke at least pinned in the wheel and not flopping around. Otherwise it may come out to the side, you get caught up in the disc, you rip off some brake lines or some ABS cables. So that's a pretty good upgrade to do if you're working on your wheels. These wheels have also been all torqued. The spokes have been torqued to spec. These bikes, when they're stock, they come torqued, and then you get a couple hours on them, and then they need to be re-torqued. So that's a maintenance item you want to take care of every at least every tire change at a minimum, if not a little more often than that. So that's pretty much a complete tour of this 690. The platform is excellent for long distance guys who want a sport tour with a little bit more durability. Shed a couple 100 pounds over the larger GS bike competition. It's a pretty ideal bike. We've liked it a lot. So thanks for watching, and go get some.